Hi everybody, how you doing today? I hope you're doing well. We're in Oak Hill, West Virginia. From Montgomery to Birmingham to Knoxville to Oak Hill, people take this pilgrimage to follow the road that Hank Williams drove the night he died 70 years ago. And this was one of the last places that he stopped, called the Skyline Drive-In. I'm going to tell you the story. It's not open today, but if you ever come here, I'll give you the address because they make their own homemade hot dog chili, and it's supposed to be excellent. Let's go up and look at the hours. They're closed on Mondays, but from Tuesday to Saturday they open at 10. They don't have any closing, but they're closed on Sundays and Mondays. Hank's last stop. And the sign that's out here was the actual sign that was here the day that him and William Carr pulled in. This is the original signpost and frame, but kids had thrown rocks at the sign, but the owner had a picture of it, and she's made the exact replica. It says Skyline Drive-In, Hank's last stop, burgers, barbecue, hot dogs, dine-in, 304-469-1025. Hank Williams, his real name was Hiram, was born on September 17, 1923 in Butler, Alabama, and died in Oak Hill on January 1, 1953. He was an American singer-songwriter and is regarded as one of the most significant and influential singers and songwriters of the 20th century, and is universally recognized as the original king of country music. He recorded 55 singles that reached the top 10 on the Billboard Country and Western Bestsellers chart, 5 of which were released posthumously and 12 of which were #1. He was a member of the Country Music Hall of Fame, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and the Songwriters Hall of Fame. After his death, he was honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame on February 8, 1960, and in 1987 he was awarded a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award at the 29th Annual Grammy Awards. He married the love of his life, Audrey Shepard, in 1944, and she convinced him to move to Montgomery so they could start a band together and Hank could start performing on the radio. She regularly performed with the Drifting Cowboys and was featured on numerous recordings with her husband. She can also be credited with much of his success because she helped manage his career and was the inspiration behind many of his hit songs. On May 26, 1949, she gave birth to the couple's only child, Randall Hank Williams. After Audrey's appearance on the Grand Ole Opry, following the birth of her son, she officially renamed him Hank Williams Jr. On December 31, 1951, after allegations of mutual infidelities and resumption of her husband's problems, Audrey called him from a hotel and told Hank to be out of their Tennessee house by the time she returned. And replying to her with a seemingly prophetic statement, "Audrey, I won't live another year without you." They divorced in June 1952. She was awarded the house, their child, and half of her husband's future royalties on the condition that she never marry, and she never did. But Hank married Billie Jean Jones in 1952. Okay, we're standing on the corner of Maple and Main Street in Oak Hill. And they do have a tribute to Hank here at the library. And it says Hank Williams Memorial, September 17, 1923 to January 53. On January 1st in 1953, Hank Williams Sr. made his last stop in his last tour. This memorial is dedicated by his fans who wish to keep his memory and music alive forever. And it's a pretty significant area because this is where Hank and Charles Carr came through on their last trip. This is the library. But the story goes that Williams was scheduled to perform at the Municipal Auditorium in Charleston on December 31st, 1952. But that day they couldn't fly because there was a snowstorm in the Montgomery area. So he hired college student 18-year-old Charles Carr to drive him, in his 1962 baby blue 152 Olympic Cadillac convertible to the concerts. On December 30th, Williams and Carr stopped at the Redmont Hotel in Birmingham for the night. The following morning, they continued to Fort Payne and then on to Knoxville. And Williams and his driver took a flight to Charleston, but the plane returned to Knoxville because of bad weather. But back in Knoxville, the two arrived at the Andrew Johnson Hotel, and Carr requested a doctor for Williams, who was affected by the combination of chloral hydrate and alcohol he had consumed on the way to Knoxville. Dr. P.H. Caldwell injected Williams with 2 shots of vitamin B12, and it contained a quarter grain of morphine for his spina bifida, a pain he had endured throughout his life. Carr and Williams checked out of the hotel, but the porters had to carry Williams to the car. Carr spoke with Toby Marshall on the phone, who informed him on behalf of the tour's promoter that the show in Charleston was canceled, and he ordered him instead to drive to Canton, Ohio for a New Year's Day concert. Around midnight on January 1st, 1953, the two crossed the Tennessee state line and arrived in Bristol, Virginia. Carr stopped at an all-night restaurant and asked for a relief driver from a local taxi company. He was exhausted after driving for 20 hours. Driver Don Surface left the restaurant with Carr and Williams. He'd asked Williams if he wanted something to eat, and he said no. That was believed to be the last words that he ever spoke. The story goes that Carr stopped to stretch his legs and used the restroom at the Skyline Drive-In, where we just come from, and saw that the overcoat and blanket that was covering Hank had slipped off. When he pulled it back up, he noticed that his hand was stiff and cold. When he tried to move his hands, they snapped back to the same position the hotel porters had arranged him in. Carr then drove to a cut-rate gas station, now we know was the Pure Oil gas station right here on the corner, which has been torn down. It was right here, where it now says private parking beside this 50 years Davis Automotive, so it was set right here. He said, I went inside and there was an older guy, about 50, that came out and looked in the back seat and said, I think you've got a problem. He was very kind and said the Oak Hill General Hospital was 6 miles on the left. Literally 2 feet up the road is the hospital, and it was the Oak Hill Hospital at the time. Now it says Plateau Medical Center. But he brought him here, and Carr ran in and explained the situation to 2 interns who were in the hospital, and they came out, looked at Hank, and said, he's dead. And I asked him, can't you do something to revive him? And one of them looked at me and said, no, he's just dead. So all we know is that somewhere between Knoxville, Tennessee, and Oak Hill, West Virginia, country music lost one of its most iconic singers of all time. Hank Williams was pronounced dead at 7 a.m. on January 1st, 1953, at age 29. Oak Hill was over 600 miles from where he began his last ride in Montgomery, Alabama. We are right in the middle of downtown Oak Hill. Just wanted to show you some of there's a mural on the wall. And the reason we're here is because there is another memorial to Hank. Some really pretty houses in this town. This is the Lewis House, established in 1903. But I wanted to, this looks like a little place where they have concerts here, but I wanted to show you there's another memorial to him here. It's an amphitheater. Isn't that cute? Now this sign I know is not exactly correct, but we're going to read it. Hank Williams, The Last Ride. The legendary Hank Williams recorded 30 hit singles, including 7 #1 hits on the Billboard Top 10 country western charts in 6 years. However, his erratic behavior, caused by a mixture of alcohol and narcotics, caused the WSM Grand Ole Opry to fire him in August of 1952. In an effort to revive his stalled career, he left his mother's boarding house in Montgomery on December 30th for a 4-holiday concert. Charles Carr, the 18-year-old son of a taxi service owner, drove the singer's 1952 Cadillac convertible. After an overnight stop at the Redmond Hotel in Birmingham and some rest and medical attention at the Andrew Johnson Hotel in Knoxville, they encountered weather delays in Tennessee. Dense fog thwarted an attempt to travel by airplane. The singer was forced to skip a pair of New Year's Eve concerts in Charleston, West Virginia, and they raced toward Ohio for 2 New Year's Day concerts in Canton. In the pre-dawn hours of January 1st, on a road south of Beckley, the teenage driver found the singer unresponsive, stretched out on the back seat of his Cadillac. Car rushed to the Oak Hill Hospital. The 29-year-old singer, who penned such hits as Hey Good Lookin' and I Saw the Light, was pronounced dead of heart failure at 7 a.m. The staff at the Tyree Funeral Home embalmed and dressed the body and drove the singer's body in a hearse to Montgomery for services. An estimated 20,000 mourners overflowed and surrounded the City Auditorium on a snowy Sunday, January 4th. Within a year, publishers released 4 more songs that earned hit status, including the classics Kalijah and Your Cheatin' Heart. The route to Knoxville, to Blaine, to Bristol, to Bluefield, to Princeton, to Mount Hope, to Oak Hill remains a sacred pilgrimage for many fans of the singer-songwriter. And let me say, when they did the autopsy, they didn't find any alcohol or drugs in his body other than just what had been given him. So when it talked about that on the front, he had been taking, of course, that little bit of painkiller because of his spina bifida. But he was a member of many other Hall of Fames rather than just the Grand Ole Opry. So. Well, we're now at the Tyree Funeral Home, which is not far from where we've come from. Can't be a couple miles down the road. Dr. Ivan Mallon performed the autopsy here and found hemorrhages in the heart and neck, pronounced the cause of death as right acute ventricular dilatation. He also wrote that Williams had been severely beaten and kicked in the groin recently during a fight in a Montgomery bar. And local magistrate Virgil F. Lyons ordered an inquest into his death concerning the welt that was visible on his head. The funeral director, Joe Tyree, was called to the hospital to care for Williams' remains. Although some local rumors suggest Tyree pronounced the singer dead, he said it was done at the hospital, and his role was just to care and transport the body. He said he didn't know who Williams was because there were a lot of Williams around here, and it wasn't until they told me that he was a country music singer from Alabama that he knew any different. He said when the news broke, though, the phones rang off the hook. And Tyree said that Williams' mother didn't want to wait to have his remains shipped by train after the police investigation. So Tyree drove the body down to Alabama, leaving around 4 p.m. and arriving at 7 a.m. on the morning of the funeral, January 4th. On the long trip to Montgomery, Tyree said people would see the hearse with West Virginia license plate and immediately start asking, "Are you totin' Hank?" Once they arrived in Montgomery, the body was placed in a silver casket that was displayed at his mother's boarding house for 2 days. His funeral took place on January 4th at the Montgomery Auditorium, with his casket placed on a flower-covered stage. Mourners came to Montgomery from all over the South and beyond. It's estimated that about 25,000 people were outside the auditorium, and there were about 2,700 inside. The Drifting Cowboys sang at his funeral, which included Roy Acuff, Ernest Tubb, Red Foley, who performed songs like I Saw the Light, Beyond the Sunset, and Peace in the Valley. Hank is interred in Oakland Annex Cemetery in Montgomery, Alabama. Tyree said the singer's mother sent the funeral home Christmas cards and notes until she passed away. In 1953, months after Hank's death, Audrey paid his second wife, Billie Jean, $30,000 to relinquish the title Hank Williams' widow. Both women had been using the description, and Billie Jean agreed to Audrey's terms. Audrey and her son Hank Jr. became estranged after he turned 18. She never remarried and died of congestive heart failure on November 4th, 1975 at the age of 52. And I vlogged the home that she died in Nashville, so make sure you take a look at that. She's interred with Hank in Montgomery. Charles Carr died in July of 2013 at the age of 77. He's interred at the Greenwood Cemetery in Montgomery. Joe Tyree died on December 20th, 2020 at the age of 94, and he's interred here in Oak Hill. Hank's Cadillac is at the Hank Williams Museum in Montgomery, Alabama. And I was going to give you the addresses if you guys would like to come along. Skyline Drive-In is at 6329 Legends Highway here in Oak Hill. The Pure gas station that we just visited is on Main Street and Maple Street, right on the corner. And like I said, it was torn down in 2006, but it's across from the library. The Oak Hill Hospital still stands today. And the address there is 430 Main Street. And the Tyree Funeral Home here is at 999 Jones Avenue, Oak Hill. I hope you guys enjoyed this vlog today and seeing what happened here 70 years ago this year. It's hard to believe it's been that long, but they traveled these streets, and this is where one of his last rides until he reached Montgomery to his mother's house. And also, I'll put on some pictures of his beautiful grave in Montgomery. You guys have a blessed day. Until I see you again. Bye.